Hello and welcome to your next lesson. In the last video, we worked with a large amount of data to create a pivot table. We also applied multiple filters through the pivot table field section. Today, I would like to discuss additional filtering options. Excel provides the ability to filter by label and to filter by value directly from the table, as today's video will demonstrate. Please open the Pivot worksheet and let's go to the Filter tab to follow along in this lesson. Okay, so here we are on our spreadsheet and I have created a pivot table for us to work with. We're going to begin by just doing a standard filter directly from our pivot table. Let's go ahead and click anywhere inside the pivot table. Okay, so first I want to go ahead and get the drop down from regions. And let's go ahead and deselect Asia and let's deselect Europe. Okay, so as you can see, those are no longer part of our table. Next, let's go ahead and select quarters. Let's go ahead and deselect first quarter and second quarter and then go ahead and say OK. Alright, so now you can see what's remaining on our pivot table after our filter has been complete. Now I want to go ahead and clear our filters, then we'll move into the second part of our lesson. Let's get the drop down for region and let's go ahead and simply say clear filters. Now as we do that, you can see Asia and Europe is now back on our pivot table. Let's get the drop down for quarters. Let's go ahead and simply say clear filters. And as you can see, now our table is back in its original state. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and filter by label. Let's get the drop down for region and let's look at some of the options. Let's go label filters. And as you can see, when the filter options expand, you have the ability to search based on some information that your label may contain. You can search based on the letter that it begins with or that it ends with. We can also say that it contains certain information or does not contain certain information. Let's go ahead and select begins with. I'm going to simply say A. Now as you can see, my filter has been completed and I'm left with Asia and Australia. Let's get the drop down again. Let's clear the filter and then let's do one more. Let's say contains the word and then go ahead and say OK. So as you can see, I have three regions that apply because they contain the word and. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear the filter. And then we're going to go ahead and look at our value options. Let's get the drop down from quarters and let's go ahead and select value filters. Okay, so here you see we have the ability to filter by equal or does not equal, greater than, less than, and we even have some in between options. I'm going to go ahead and select less than. Now you have the option to choose by cost, profit, or revenue. I'm going to go ahead and say revenue. So I want to search by revenue that is less than 20,000. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And as you can see, I have pulled two figures, one for Asia and another for Middle East and North Africa. Let's go ahead and clear the filter and then we'll do one more. Okay, again, let's select value filter. This time we're going to go ahead and say greater than. Let's say profit and let's type 3 million and go ahead and say OK. Okay, and as you can see, we have a profit greater than 3 million for Europe and Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear our filter and then we'll move on into our final exercise. So next I would like to use my filter label and my filter value together. Let's see if the pivot table will allow this. Let's get the drop down and let's go ahead and say label filter. Let's say contains and we'll just go ahead and say and again. Okay, so you can see we were able to pull three references. Now I want to go ahead and do a count of my country. but I only want to accept anything that's greater than 7. So we should be left with the region that contains the word and, also where the country is greater than 7. So let's select our value, and let's say greater than, and let's simply say 7. Okay, so now as you can see, one of my filters no longer applies. So my value filter is still active, but my labor filter has been overridden. So this is a settings issue that can be easily corrected. Let's go to the Pivot Table Analyze tab. Let's get the drop down for options. Let's say options. Let's go to totals and filters. And then we're going to go ahead and check allow multiple filters per field. Let's go ahead and say OK. And let's go ahead and repeat our exercise. So let's go ahead and select regions. Let's select the label filter. And let's go ahead and say contains and type the word and. Let's say OK. Now let's go ahead and select the value filter. And let's say greater than, let's say 8 this time. And let's say OK. And as you can see, when I do my drop down, you can see my label filter is checked and my value filter is checked. Okay, so let's do one more and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the lesson. Let's go ahead and clear our filters. Let's select the drop down for region. And this time, let's get the label filter and say contains the word North. So you see we're left with two options, Middle East and North Africa and North America. Now let's get the drop down for value filters and let's go ahead and say greater than. And this time let's say 4 and let's go ahead and say OK. And as you can see, we're left with one option because it meets both criteria. Let's take a look at our filters and make sure both are checked so we can make sure that it is working correctly. Okay, and as you can see, our label filter is checked and our value filter is also checked. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this lesson up. I hope you found this information helpful and I'll see you in the next video. Congratulations on completing another video and on your commitment to learning this program. I hope that you are getting the most out of our level up lessons and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.